So this is the Designer tab, which is where you can design new types of forms and edit form types that you already have. My account has a few dozen forms already in it, but when you first start out, you're not going to see any forms in your account, so this will be blank, or you may have one or two forms, or a few more, that were included when you signed up for your account. If you want to create a new form type here at the screen, you just basically click this plus button up here, and you get a choice between selecting a template, which is a pre-made form, and if you click on it, you can choose from those form types here. I'm going to cancel out of that. Or you can create a brand new form by clicking Add Blank. Now, for forms that are already created, if you click on one of those forms, like let's say the 5S audit form, for example, you'll see that the screen is divided up into three areas. We have this properties area, which has to do with settings for the form itself. And we have a preview window over here on the right, which shows you what the form is going to look like. You can also change the size of that window if you choose to. For example, make it extra large or make it medium or small, so that you could simulate what it might look like on different sizes of phones or tablets. Now, you have all kinds of settings here under Basic Information and a few more under Advanced Features, and I'm going to run through those right now. We'll get to how you actually put the fields into the form in a different video, and that's on a different screen. So let's briefly go through the properties that you will find on a form. The form properties, and this doesn't include the fields that appear here, but the form properties include things like the title of the form, who's allowed to use the form, and some other things as well. When you first create a form, you'll want to give that form a display name. In this case, we're calling this one the 5S audit. And you'll also want to give it a form ID. This will be assigned to you automatically if you leave it blank, but I find it's better to put in an ID that makes sense. Think of this as an abbreviated name, almost as if you were naming a file name. Down here, under Edit Form Commands, this is where you can go in and actually add the fields into your layout. And down here in Advanced Features, there's not a lot here that you're probably going to touch right away, but you'll be able to do a couple cool things like set the color and the icon that appears up here in this area. You can do that by clicking on that button. Enabling custom code, which is by default set to no, allows you to add TPL code to your application to give it a little bit more intelligence if you need to do that. Initial status has to do with whether this form, when you first create it, is set to open or submitted or pending or something like that, if you're using statuses in that way. And status role and permission groups are used to decide who's allowed to open the form, who's allowed to enter data into the form, who's allowed to see the form, and so on. That's actually set up in the Permissions tab, but once it's set in the Permissions tab, you then set that permission group right here in Designer. Down here, we have control over the heading and listing template, which gives you a little bit more control over how this is set up. Initialization commands allow you to set default values that'll be filled in as soon as someone creates a new instance of your form to fill out. And those are pretty much the ones you'll need to know. When you're first starting out, really the ones that you're probably going to be most interested in would be setting the color and the icon, setting the display name, and setting the form ID.